Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Today, as I said, I have my friend Jessica with me. Jessica, it is fantastic to have you here with us today. Before we dive in to goal success, can you share a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to be a life coach?
Yes, so thank you for having me. I'm excited for this. So really, I went into coaching because I had worked with psychology prior to. I had my bachelor's degree in psychology, and the piece that I disconnected to was that there wasn't as much application in how do you take those ideas, how do you take those philosophies, how do you do the psychology and move it forward. So when we're talking something like goals, there's a huge action piece that comes to it. So that was what really drove me into coaching. And I do that and a little bit of business coaching, all focused around kind of personal development. And then how do we drive our personal success and our business success? And goals is a great way to do that.
The beginning of the year, that you hear a lot about goals and goal planning, right? This is the time of year that the gyms are packed and
Yes.
I'm sure like the vegetables are just flying off the shelf. And everybody is getting super, super focused on their goals. So this is going to be a really good conversation because setting a goal isn't just for January. It's all year. But I have a question for you. So,
Yes.
in your experience, how do you define a true understanding of a goal? And why is it crucial for success?
Right. So this is actually one of the things that I'm most excited about with goals because I think a lot of times we think of a goal as like a task. It's just a simple task we're going to put a lot of focus to. We're going to have some actionable steps around and check off it's done. But how many times are we unsuccessful at our goals? Too
Too
many,
many.
right? Way too
Too
many.
many.
And the reason for that is because we're not truly understanding, in my professional opinion, what a goal is. So a goal encompasses either something brand new that we've never done before, or something we've tried to do many times and for some reason either can't keep it or can't make it happen. Well, why is that? Because it develops character. It takes new abilities. There's a whole lot of development that happens through achieving a goal. So I think that's the biggest takeaway I try to bring home to people is if we can look at a goal as more like a journey of new, of development, of new skills, new perspectives, change. Change is a big part that comes along with goals, right? Even like
Yeah.
going to the gym, that's changing habits, routines, the relationship we have with our time and ourself. Weight loss is the same kind of thing. We have to make all sorts of changes often in the way that we eat and all of that. So I think by not setting us up for success in the way of like, hey, this is going to challenge me. So not only do I have to have a plan, but I have to be prepared for that. I think that's why we feel so defeated and let go of our goals. So,
Interesting. I mean, and a lot of people, I never thought about it when you said that a goal takes on like this character. And yeah, you're right. And it's more about the journey. I never really looked at it that way, which is interesting. So what are some misconceptions that people have about their goals?
I think some of the common misconceptions are that we underestimate the challenges that we're
Mm,
going to be faced with. Again, leaning on that character development, right? It's like we go into it thinking, again, it's just a few tasks. So if we can, and we're all pretty efficient at task mastering, but what we aren't efficient at is recognizing our strengths and weaknesses and being proactively prepared or open to having new change and development. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I see in that area.
So, so one of the things that we can do, if I'm understanding correctly, when we are setting our goals is to think ahead about what obstacles we might face.
So it's a piece of it because it's hard to see all the obstacles that are coming. So what I
True.
recommend,
True.
right? If we and that goes into the new territory. So I think that's where the personal inventory comes in. So if we step back and take a little bit of personal inventory of our own strengths and weaknesses and character, so there's a few areas that we can look at. We can look at how open am I to change. So in other words, how much do I want this goal? If you want it bad enough, you're willing to make adjustments, to change habits. And that's what I see a lot of times. People come at their breaking point. I need to make this happen. But how much more successful could we be if we could do it before our breaking point and say,
Mm.
hey, I really want this to happen. And I understand a goal is a little bit different than a habit or something I already know how to do. So let me step back and see kind of where I'm at within myself. How much do I want this to change? Am I willing to look at things differently? Can I change habits and routines? Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Let's take stock of that. Where can't you make changes right now? And how can we navigate your goal to be able to still have success, but maybe not to the degree that it will be right away, right? Like we can make the starting change and then we can progress to another change.
You mentioned personal inventory and using like taking personal inventory to level up. Can you talk a little bit about what that involves?
Yes. So when we do personal inventory, I think we need to start with first understanding what we're trying to achieve and why we want to achieve it. So a lot of times we may have a goal in mind, right? Like we
Okay.
want to make more money at work.
Right.
Okay. But why do you want to do that? So if we understand why we want to have that goal, so I want to make more money so that I can, have more freedom and flexibility in my personal life so that I can kind of achieve some of the personal goals that I have, upgrading a house or buying a new vehicle or whatever it is. So a lot of times people chase the what. Well, I just want more money.
Mm.
Okay. But if you take on a position that has more hours, or if you take on a position that you're unhappy, is it matching your why? So at the end of the day,
That's
does that make
good. That's
sense?
good.
Right? So at the end
Yeah,
of
I
the
don't mean to
day,
interrupt you, but I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so you might achieve it, but you're not getting what you're looking for. So, that's part of where I think we start with personal inventory. When I'm working with a client to set up a goal success, is we need to get really clear on what you want, and why you want it is actually more important because the why can actually adjust the goal that we're going after. So when we start with that space, now we can start taking inventory of our like resources. Well, what do we have available to make these changes? What do we need to learn? What skills do we need to gain? What kind of comfort zones do we need to break out of to be able to meet our what?
That's
And
a lot.
I mean, it's actually, to me, it's fascinating, but there's a
It
lot
is.
of, it's not complicating. It's just, there's a lot of strategy that I think a lot of people miss.
You know what? I would agree with you because I don't know if I've ever broken it down when I'm goal planning. I've broken them down for probably more so in my business, right? But my
Right.
personal goals, I never thought about that, like really breaking all those questions down because it really could transform your approach to achieving that goal,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. It takes an entirely different shape, right? So now it's not just a task. It's personal growth and development. It's movement, which is what a goal is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be movement to
Right.
to a change, to a leveling up of status, to a readjustment to a reality we don't want any longer. So, to think, and I think that's the thing, even something as small as not small, it's challenging to manage weight and stuff, but like let's
Yeah.
say that, right? It's not as simple as I just want to lose a few pounds. There's a whole story of why that matters behind it.
Yeah.
And it's to be able to be successful at that and to hold on to that success really requires a whole transformation of your current reality of life.
Mm. So what are some challenges when you're sitting with somebody and you're working with them to set up this personal inventory? What are
Mhm.
some common challenges that you see people typically face when trying to do this?
Yes. So this is also one of my favorite parts because I actually have an activity to kind of let people develop their own understanding of how they get in their own way. So it's a really simple activity, but it's really showing that, goals are going to have obstacles and different things like that. So the first test with that activity is how do you respond to the obstacles of goals? Do you shut down? Do you become frustrated? Do you start doing negative self-talk? Like, how are you getting in your own way is the first one.
Yeah.
And then the other things that we do, again, environmental factors. So sometimes we have a desire, we have a goal, but there are like logistical challenges that stand in the way, or what we truly want, we might have to not reduce the goal, but we have to kind of bite size it out. And I
Okay.
think the thing that I see is people say, okay, well, I can't get there. I can't have the fullness of what I want. So they don't even get started. And that's
Mm.
not the case. You can get there. And as a coach, I always want to know what that ultimate spot is. But sometimes we have to take it back because we need development. We need environmental changes before we can get there. And so I think just people feeling self-defeated before they even get started. So what do? We just get by. We just say, well, this is okay. Our standards go down instead of our
Mm.
development, right? Seeking new skills,
Yeah. Yes,
think
you're right.
differently. And so then we end up living a life that isn't as fulfilling. And in addition to that, I think I see people underestimate their own character strengths. Um, so it's almost like, is it a fear of success or a fear of failure or both? So that's what I see.
That's interesting that, yeah, that they don't recognize it.
Mm-mm.
They don't recognize what they're really capable of. Interesting. I want to go back to the what and the why that you
Yes.
talked about a little bit ago. And so when you're working with your clients and you help them uncover these core motivations of what and why, how does that change their goal setting process?
So there's two important factors that I work with. So the what and the why actually for me became a development in the goal process when working with clients because of the physics of energy. And I know this gets really deep. Like I just made
Yeah,
goals
I'm
as
like,
deep
whoa,
as it
whoa,
could
whoa, whoa,
be.
whoa, wait. I hated chemistry class. Like, I love biology, loved
I
it, but
didn't even take chemistry. But so So to kind of simplify it as much as possible, the world and ourselves are really fundamentally built on energy. That's
yes.
that's a proven science to it. And there are some characteristics that come along with energy. And a lot of those characteristics in the purest state are just primed for goal success. So that's why when we align our what and our why, we're actually stepping in to say, hey, energy, come support me in this. So by being able to do that, we can reduce a lot of obstacles. So I always educate clients about that too, because I remind them that you're not in this alone. There are supports and there are strengths we can lean into to help us get through. We just have to be focused and determined and stay patient through the process. So that's one thing. Then the other thing that we talk about is really creating a support plan around the why.
Okay.
Okay. What we're trying to achieve eventually breaks down to tasks. That kind of is the task mastering part. But that's not what's going to give us the endurance to get through all the challenges or to keep persevering towards our goal. We're going to have to really make a relationship with why it matters. So the
Mm.
why starts to get broken down into the support plan of, okay, how do we build a relationship with this goal? Because it's not just something that we can like pick up every Monday and say, okay, this is my goal day. Goals
Yeah.
don't typically happen that way. It's something we have to, again, really have a consistent and stable relationship with.
Yeah, that support plan sounds like it's a game changer in the process.
I think that it's huge. I think it's a crucial piece, especially the bigger your goal is, because it's going to push you. It's going to take longer. The rewards aren't going to come as quickly, and we need endurance to get through. So expect defeat in your process of a goal or not making milestones that you hope for. And that support plan is there to kind of keep us going, to keep us motivated and encouraged to stay in line with with the work that we have to do.
So let's talk about that in like a real life situation. So if somebody's listening, they're like, okay, I get what she means, right? And just because we've been talking about weight loss and it's the beginning of the year, let's stick with that theme, right? So the what is hypothetically to lose weight, and please correct
Mhm.
me if I'm wrong through this, right? The why might be health reasons to
Mhm.
live a longer life, right? And see things that you're looking forward to be here. And then when you understand that, what does that support system look like?
Right. Perfect question. So, a support system, for example, with that, with weight loss, the first thing that we're going to talk about is likely your own dialogue with yourself. That, right?
Oh, that's terrible. I mean, not that that suggestion's not terrible, but man, are we mean to ourselves a
So
lot of
mean
times.
and unforgiving. We are
We
not just
really
mean,
are.
it's like there is no exception for just being human in the process
Yeah.
of our own mind.
Yeah.
So we have to change that because we can't escape it. You know, we have to have a good relationship with ourselves, or at least a
Yeah.
supportive one to kind of
Yes.
keep ourselves going. So for like weight loss, one of it would be either affirmations, which are just more positive statements about yourself or what you're trying to achieve. You could have, cues like motivational quotes, things like that on your phone or kind of post it around, just something to remind you that old style of talking doesn't belong here. We're doing something new. Environmental cues are huge. So there's a lot of research that shows that environmental factors can significantly increase or derail our success towards what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So think about it. Like if you've got weight loss and you're used to having, Oreos, chips, candies just kind of strung around the house, how easy is it to walk by and just, oh, I'm just going to grab this one little thing. I'm just going
Yeah.
to grab a handful of
Right?
berries,
Super easy.
absolutely. And if you have conscious thought behind it, not only is it just easy to do it by like happenstance, but now we've just created obstacles for ourselves. Now we have to go in and have that inner battle. I know I shouldn't have that because it's not meeting my goals, but like I really want that. And it just puts more effort out there. So
Yeah.
environmental cues become a really important thing. A lot of people find success with accountability partners, whether that is you holding yourself accountable. So you've got certain check ins or certain, kind of assessment markers that you're doing. Having another person is really good for
Mhm.
weight loss. If you have exercise or some sort of physical activity routine, don't just say, oh, I'm going to do it, a couple times a week. Which days? What time frame? And if you don't do it at that mark, make sure you do it as soon as you can. So those are pretty much like three common things that we can
Yeah.
we can use.
How flexible should that plan be?
Our support plan,
Yeah.
not very.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
so
Yeah.
because we're too easy at making negotiations for ourselves,
Oh,
and
that's the
support,
truth. I'm already negotiating. I'm like, so how flexible
right,
can we make
right,
it?
and exactly, which and life happens. It's like, well, next time, tomorrow, that kind of thing. And so a support plan is meant to be a relationship builder, but it's also meant to be a habit changer. So if
Okay.
we have a daily or weekly ritual within our support plan, again, that what's your target, what's your plan to make this happen, the supports around it. So not unless there's something significant that's happened in growth or development as you've been moving towards your goals, then to revamp it to make it make more sense for the stage that you're at, that would be the time when I say we can have that flexibility.
Okay. Okay. I got you. I hear you. I hear you. So when you have this plan in place, you've identified your what and your why. I guess the next step is to make sure that people take action on it,
Right.
right? Because we can plan. I mean, I know some people that I've worked with, right? And they're amazing planners and they can
Uh-huh.
plan things out and it looks just
Do
like,
it. Team.
wow,
It's
that's so
beautiful.
cool, right?
Yeah.
But you got to take that next step. So how do you balance, or how do you coach them to make sure that, oh, the planning's cool, but now you got to
Mhm.
take action.
Absolutely. And this is the biggest part where I see that fear of success or fear of failure come up is, the planning is safe, right? Planning is it's the intention, it's the desire, it's the easy part.
Yeah.
But the action is when it really starts to push us, push against our character, push against our, push us in growth and development. So here's kind of my framework around that. I
Okay.
say plan out the first three steps and know where you want to land. But that's where the flexibility comes in. Sometimes, a lot of times, our goals, we don't know yet what we haven't discovered in the journey of our goals. So if we try to plan out every single step, for one, the
Mhm.
chances that that's going to flow exactly like that are slim to none. I mean, how many of us have had expectations of where we thought we would land and it looks almost nothing like
Yeah.
what we were going after? And most of the
Several
time, it's a
times.
great thing, right? Like a lot of
Yeah.
times, it's for the better. So I don't advise clients to spend a lot of energy or investment in trying to have everything lined up. So if we get the first three and just start moving, right? Because in the
Yeah.
action, that will shape a lot more of how true and accurate is our what and why.
Mm.
Does this really mean what we thought it meant, or do we need to make adjustments there? So I guess that's the revision piece more is the journey towards the goal. I don't really advise people to overhaul their what and why unless they were completely disconnected to it until they discovered the process, or kind of rewrite their goal. But we need to be able to have flexibility with both what becomes available, what is no longer available as we're seeking our goals, and then how we develop through that process. So that's why, some strategy like a support plan, understanding our what and why, having all of those kinds of things in place are helpful. Action is the piece that is
Mm.
fundamental to making any goal happen, whether you have this kind of strategy and structure behind it or not. If you're not making movement in your goal, it's never going to be successful.
Oh, that's a good piece of advice right there. And I am going to ask you as we wrap up for, I mean, and that one was good. That was good. So I'm going to see if you can actually top it. But what piece of advice do you have for anybody who's listening that's ready to really enhance their goal success? What would you tell
Yes.
them?
Okay. So that there are so many that could come into play, but I'm going to talk about something that I haven't really spoken
Oh,
on, which is another
yeah,
key piece.
good.
So I think the four key fundamentals that we need in our kind of personal inventory. First, focus. So that support plan, we need to keep it somewhere that it's in communication with us all the time. We need to remember the what and the why, and we need to make sure we're going back just like a business plan and reevaluating it. Because that's going to lock in our focus. And then the other things are dedication. That's where we really lean into our why. The bigger the goal, the deeper the
Mhm.
dedication. And dedication shouldn't come at the cost of other things, but it needs to be at the forefront of what's driving you and your goal and your decisions, right? Because
Yeah.
that's another piece that aligns with it. And then we need patience because that's where a lot of us are like, that's it. The goal must not be right for me, or I'll just try it again next year, or I'm going to get
Yep.
distracted by this. And then endurance. That's where I see a
Yeah.
lot of people kind of lose heart, and kind of give up on their goals. And a lot of times your goals are connected to your passions and your desires. So to me as a coach, that's always the saddest piece
Mm.
is if I think by understanding goals a little bit more like this, I know for me it really changed my approach and my perspective with the goal, and it supports endurance and
Yeah.
in places people would have given up. Um, I haven't yet. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and we don't want our listeners to give up either. So now you've
no,
got these keys that are going to help you achieve any goal that you set. And
absolutely.
and you have Jessica. So Jessica, for it has been great talking to you and so insightful. So Thank you so much. For those of listeners who want to know more about working with you and how to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Hopefully, you find it pretty easily. Anywhere that you search under Endless Possibilities Life and Business Coaching Services, you should be able to find ways to contact me directly by phone or text, email me, message me through all of those things. I try to make myself highly accessible. If you just see me walking around town, you are welcome to come up and talk to me. My driving passion is to share my knowledge and help people. So hopefully that helps you know how to find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate having you on. So this has been great.
Thank you. Thank you. This was so cool. I appreciate
It was
it
always
too.
fun. It was always fun. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
I can't see around.